The Zorgans, an advanced civilization with meticulous military strategy, but zero understanding of human behavior, arrive in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday afternoon. Their stealth technology malfunctions due to an unforeseen reaction with Earth's atmosphere, causing their ships to emit catchy pop music instead of remaining invisible. Captain Sarlthoop, a decorated commander with 3 tentacles and a strict demeanor, watches in horror as humans begin recording their ships and turning the footage into internet sensations. What is happening? Sarlthoop demands, his tentacles writhing in agitation as he watches the main view screen. Our fear-inducing entrance is being shared for entertainment. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Zex, blinks all 4 of his eyes nervously. Sir, the humans appear to be dancing. Our threat level assessment seems to have been miscalculated. Across Earth, reactions to the alien ships range from excited to mildly inconvenienced. In New York, tourists simply add the hovering spacecraft to their sightseeing photos. In Tokyo, a group of teenagers creates a dance challenge based on the pulsing lights of the Zorgan warships. In a small town in Nebraska, an elderly farmer looks up at the massive ship blocking his son and mutters about those darn weather balloons getting bigger every year. Meanwhile, in the White House Situation Room, world leaders gather in what should be a tense emergency meeting. So they've been hovering there for 6 hours, says the Secretary of Defense, pointing to satellite imagery. And they're broadcasting what exactly? A communications specialist adjusts her glasses. It appears to be their version of threatening military messages, sir. But due to translation issues, they're coming across as, well, listen for yourself. She plays the intercepted broadcast. People of Earth, we come to make fabulous smoothies with your planetary resources and enslave your taste buds with our superior recipes. The room falls silent before erupting in poorly suppressed laughter. Back on the Zorgan mothership, Captain Sarlthoop attempts to salvage the situation. Launch the intimidation drones. They will demonstrate our technological superiority. The drones deploy from the mothership, designed to create intricate flight patterns that historically struck fear into countless alien species. However, Earth's unique atmospheric composition affects their navigational systems, causing the drones to form what appears to be a giant smiley face over Manhattan. Social media explodes with hashtags like #FriendlyInvaders and #SpaceParty. One video of a drone that landed in Central Park and began spinning in circles while emitting a high-pitched whine becomes the template for a viral dance craze. Captain Sarlthoop slams his tentacle against his command console. This is unprecedented. Their military should be mobilizing. Their leaders should be surrendering. Instead, they're monetizing our presence. A cultural analyst named Creel approaches cautiously. Sir, I've been studying their information networks. The humans have thousands of scenarios about alien invasions in their entertainment. They've been mentally preparing for this moment for decades, but not in the way we expected. Many seem excited by our arrival. Excited? We are the Zorgan Empire. We have conquered 17 worlds. Yes, sir, but none of those worlds had memes. The Zorgan Invasion Manual has no protocol for dealing with a species that responds to threats with jokes, merchandise opportunities, and weekend viewing parties. When the Zorgans deploy their fearsome ground troops in what should be a terrifying first contact, they're met with food trucks, selfie requests, and amateur linguists trying to communicate through elaborate hand gestures. In San Francisco, Dr. Sandra Chen watches the chaos unfold from her university office. As one of Earth's leading xenolinguists, she recognizes that the translation errors are creating dangerous misunderstandings. They're not here to make smoothies, she mutters, analyzing the intercepted communications. But they clearly don't understand how humans respond to new situations. When a small Zorgan scout ship lands on her university campus, instead of fleeing, Sandra grabs her research notes and walks directly toward it. The ship's door opens, revealing Lieutenant Klidnock, the Zorgan's foremost expert on alien cultures, who is completely unprepared for his first human encounter. "Surrender your," his translator begins, before Sandra reaches up and adjusts a dial on the device. "You're using the wrong frequency modulation for human language patterns," she says calmly. "Would you like some help with that?" Klidnock stares at her with all three of his eyes. The invasion manual definitely had no protocol for this. 3 days after first contact, Captain Carl Thoup stares in disbelief at the surveillance footage from his troops' Earth bases. His most elite invasion unit, the fearsome Nebula Squadron, is currently engaged in what humans call a dance-off with a group of teenagers in suburban Australia. "Explain this immediately," he demands, his voice crackling with barely contained frustration. Lieutenant Zex shuffles nervously. "Sir, it appears our troops were attempting to establish dominance through physical intimidation when the humans challenged them to this ritual combat. Our soldiers believed victory would establish our authority." On screen, Commander Grack, decorated veteran of the Andromeda campaign, attempts to perform something called the floss while local teenagers cheer him on. And this. Sarlthu points to another screen showing Zorgan soldiers lined up outside a building. "That's a food distribution center called Pizza Hut. Our nutritional analysts were dispatched to study human sustenance, but they've submitted 17 reports about something called stuffed crust instead of completing their biological warfare assessment." Across Earth, similar scenes unfold. In Tokyo, a Zorgan infiltration specialist has abandoned her mission to become a guest judge on a cooking show. In Rio de Janeiro, invasion troops have been photographed on the beach learning to surf. In Chicago, a reconnaissance team has developed an obsession with a human sporting ritual called baseball and purchased matching team hats. At the university where Dr. Sandra Chen works, she's established a makeshift cultural exchange center. Lieutenant Klidnock sits across from her, 3 eyes blinking in confusion, as she explains human concepts. So when humans say break a leg, they don't actually want someone to sustain an injury. He asks, taking careful notes with his tentacle. "Exactly. It's an idiom, a phrase that means something different from its literal meaning. We have thousands of them." This explains the unfortunate incident in Madrid. Klidnock mutters, "We thought your diplomat was threatening our commander when he said he wanted to touch base with him." Sandra suppresses a smile. "What did your troops do?" "They protected all bases with additional guards." For 3 days, in Washington, D.C., military leaders gather for an emergency meeting about the unusual invasion. They've established bases in 57 locations worldwide, General Martinez explains, pointing to a map. But instead of weapons, they appear to be stockpiling entertainment media and snack foods. "Any hostile actions?" the Secretary of Defense asks. "Well, they attempted to drain Lake Michigan yesterday. But when questioned, they explained they thought it was a beverage storage facility and wanted to try it." Meanwhile, Captain Sarl Thoup faces a crisis of leadership as his ship's communication officer approaches. "Sir, our ground troops are requesting more spending money." "For what purpose?" Sarl Thoup demands. "They wish to purchase items called souvenirs and something called tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. They claim these are essential for understanding human weakness." Sarl Thoup's tentacles twitch in agitation. "This planet is corrupting our forces. How can an invasion succeed when our fearsome warriors are standing in lines for something called limited edition sneakers?" At a Zorgan base in Colorado, a different problem emerges. Troops assigned to study human defense capabilities have instead become addicted to streaming services. Squad leader Vrex, once feared throughout the Crab Nebula for his tactical genius, hasn't left his monitoring station in 48 hours because he's 5 seasons into something called the Great British Bake Off and needs to see who makes it to the final. Back at the university, Sandra makes a breakthrough with Klidnock. "Your invasion isn't failing because of technical issues," she explains gently. "It's failing because you fundamentally misunderstood humans. We don't respond to shows of force the way other species might. We're curious, adaptable, and frankly, easily distracted by new and interesting things. Klidnock considers this. Like how my security detail abandoned their posts to attend something called a food truck festival. Exactly. And now your troops are experiencing something unprecedented in your military history. What's that? Fun, Sandra says with a smile. They're having fun. The word doesn't translate properly in Klidnock's headset, causing all three of his eyes to widen in alarm. Before he can respond, his communication device buzzes with an emergency alert from Zorgan High Command. This isn't over, he tells Sandra, suddenly serious. Our reinforcements are coming. And they won't be so easily distracted. But as he leaves to report back to his ship, Klidnock hesitates at a street vendor selling something called ice cream that he's been curious about for days. Perhaps just one quick sample wouldn't compromise the mission too much. 2 weeks into the Zorgan invasion, Earth experiences something unprecedented, a global case of crossed wires. While Captain Sarlthoop struggles to reconnect with his scattered and increasingly distracted forces, humans have developed their own theories about the aliens' presence. They're obviously environmental activists, declares popular influencer Maya Rodriguez in a video that gets 30 million views overnight. Look at their ships. Those aren't weapons, they're advanced atmospheric scrubbers. The evidence she points to: Zorgan troops have been observed collecting samples of polluted water and soil, carefully cataloging Earth's endangered species, and appearing distressed when witnessing humans littering. The fact that they were actually assessing Earth's vulnerability for conquest hits completely lost in translation. In London, a Zorgan scout ship lands in Hyde Park, deploying what is supposed to be terrain mapping equipment. Within hours, environmental activists form a human chain around the ship, holding signs that read Aliens for Earth and Green Beings from Green Planets. Captain Sarlthoop watches this unfold from his command center, purple with rage. They think we're here to save their environment. We're here to conquer them. His communications officer shifts uncomfortably. Sir, the problem is more complex than that. Many of our ground troops have been filing petitions. Petitions for what? To postpone the invasion until after something called the playoffs. Apparently, it's a crucial sporting event, and several battalions have developed strong allegiances to local teams. At the university, Dr. Sandra Chen hosts an impromptu press conference to clarify the situation, with Lieutenant Klidnock reluctantly by her side. The Zorgans are not environmental activists, she explains to the assembled journalists. Their mission was originally hostile, but there seems to be a significant cultural shift happening within their ranks. A reporter raises his hand. Then why are they cleaning up beaches and planting trees? Sandra glances at Klidnock, who looks equally confused. They're doing what? It turns out that several Zorgan units, abandoned by commanders who became obsessed with human entertainment, had sought guidance from locals who misunderstood their questions about planetary resources. The aliens had been redirected to community service projects. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., military intelligence analyzes the Zorgan technology. Their weapons appear designed to disintegrate matter, explains a scientist, but they haven't used them once. Instead, they've repurposed them to make elaborate ice sculptures and cook perfect pizza crusts. The Secretary of Defense pinches the bridge of her nose. Are we being invaded or not? No one has a clear answer. The Zorgans technically deployed for invasion, but their actions suggest anything but hostile intent. Their ships hover peacefully, their troops integrate into local communities, and their commanding officers seem more interested in Earth's cultural offerings than conquest. Back on the mothership, Sarlthoop receives a transmission from Zorgan High Command. Your mission status is unacceptable, booms the Supreme Commander. You were sent to conquer, not contaminate your forces with primitive entertainment. We're sending General Vrax to assume control. Sarlthoop's tentacles droop in shame. General Vrax is legendary for his ruthlessness and discipline. The fun is about to end. At the university, Klitnock receives the same news and finds himself experiencing an unfamiliar emotion: regret. "You're General Vrax," Sandra asks, noting his changed demeanor. "I'm guessing he's not the type to appreciate cultural exchange." "He conquered the moon of Zelter by turning its oceans to acid," Klitnock replies quietly. He finds different perspectives inefficient. That evening, as Sandra and Klitnock watch the sunset from campus, an unlikely friendship forms between two beings from different worlds. "Why do you even want to conquer Earth?" Sandra asks. "What does the Zorgan Empire need with our planet?" Klitnock contemplates this question. After 2 weeks of experiencing human culture, the standard Zorgan answer, expansion of power and resources, seems hollow. "I'm not certain anymore," he admits, "but I am certain that General Vrax won't ask such questions. He'll simply follow the invasion protocol without deviation." Sandra looks up at the sky, where a new, larger Zorgan ship has appeared. "Then we have a problem." "No," Klitnock corrects her, his translator perfectly conveying the gravity in his voice. "You have a problem. And for some reason I can't fully explain, that means I have a problem too." General Vrax's arrival changes the atmosphere immediately. Unlike the bumbling Captain Xarlthoop, Vrax has a reputation that spans galaxies. His first act upon taking command is to recall all ground troops for psychological decontamination. "You will forget these human distractions," he announces to the assembled Zorgan forces. "You are warriors, not tourists. Tomorrow, we attack their military installations according to the original invasion plan." His troops respond with less than enthusiastic salutes. Many glance longingly at the earth below, already missing their favorite coffee shops and television shows. Lieutenant Klitnock slips away from the assembly to send an urgent message to Sandra. General Vrax is planning coordinated strikes on military bases tomorrow. This is not a drill. Sandra immediately contacts government authorities, but finds them surprisingly unconcerned. "The aliens have been here for weeks doing nothing but sampling our cuisine and binge-watching our streaming services," says the Deputy Secretary of Defense. "Why would they suddenly attack now?" "Because," Sandra explains with growing frustration, "the commander who let that happen has been replaced by someone who actually wants to invade." Morning arrives, and General Vrax's forces deploy with military precision. Hundreds of Zorgan attack vessels descend toward Earth's major military installations. It should be a moment of terror and destruction, but things quickly go awry. The first attack squadron, targeting a naval base in Norfolk, Virginia, gets delayed when half the troops insist on stopping for coffee and donuts. "We cannot possibly conquer efficiently without proper caffeine," argues Commander Yex to his superior. "It's a tactical necessity." By the time they arrive, 20 minutes late, the base is completely empty, evacuated thanks to Sandra's warning. In Colorado, a Zorgan battalion approaches a missile silo but refuses to damage the surrounding nature preserve where they had previously participated in a community cleanup day. "Perhaps we could conquer just the military part," suggests one soldier. General Vrax watches in mounting horror as his precise attack plan disintegrates. Troops arrive late, refuse to destroy civilian infrastructure, or simply get lost on the way to their targets. The most embarrassing failure occurs in Florida, where Vrax's flagship descends upon a supposedly crucial military installation. Instead, his navigation officer has led them to a retirement community whose residents are hosting their weekly bingo tournament. "Look, Martha, the aliens are joining us for bingo," exclaims an enthusiastic octogenarian, as Zorgan troops exit their vessel. Before Vrax can correct this navigational error, his ship is swarmed by senior citizens offering them homemade cookies and insisting they join their activities. The fearsome general finds himself helplessly handed a bingo card while residents compliment his realistic costume. Meanwhile, Sandra and Klitnock rush between locations, trying to prevent any actual combat. They arrive at a base in Arizona just as a Zorgan attack squad confronts American soldiers. "Surrender immediately," the Zorgan commander demands. "Hey, aren't you the guys who helped referee our baseball game last weekend?" asks a sergeant. "Yes, that was us. How is your team doing?" The Zorgan troops immediately break formation to discuss sports, completely forgetting their mission. By afternoon, what should have been a devastating global attack has turned into an unmitigated disaster for the Zorgan military. Not a single objective has been achieved. Instead, troops report making significant cultural connections and scheduling follow-up social engagements with the very humans they were supposed to conquer. General Vrax, finally extracting himself from the bingo tournament where he won a gift basket, returns to the mothership in a state of unprecedented rage. What has happened to our fearsome military? He demands of Captain Xarlthoop. They've been corrupted. I tried to warn you, sir. Xarlthoop replies carefully. Humans have a strange effect on our kind. They're surprisingly engaging. Nonsense. Vrax slams his tentacle down. I will discipline every soldier, reset our invasion parameters, and he's interrupted by a communications officer. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Zorgan High Command. It's an emergency. The view screen activates to show the Supreme Commander looking uncharacteristically concerned. General Vrax, your new mission is to establish immediate diplomatic relations with Earth. We have detected a collector swarm fleet approaching the solar system. They appear to be targeting Earth for acquisition. Vrax's expression shifts from anger to grave concern. The collector swarm is the one species even Zorgans fear. Methodical, relentless harvesters of whole planets. How long do we have? He asks. 3 Earth days at most. As the transmission ends, Vrax turns to find Klitnock and Sandra standing in the doorway, having rushed to the mothership after hearing rumors of the new threat. It seems, Vrax says with visible discomfort, that we may need to protect your planet instead of conquering it. The emergency meeting between Earth's leaders and Zorgan commanders creates a scene unlike any in human diplomatic history. General Vrax stands stiffly at one end of the United Nations conference table, while various world leaders sit at the other, still unsure if this is some elaborate alien trick. Let me understand this correctly, says the Secretary General. Last week you were trying to invade us, and now you want to protect us from another alien species. The collector swarm is not like us, General Vrax explains, his tentacles twitching with rare nervousness. They do not conquer, they harvest. They strip planets of all resources, including organic life forms, cataloging everything before moving to their next target. Captain Xarlthoop adds helpfully, they're basically librarians with planet-destroying technology. Sandra, serving as translator for the more technical terms, clarifies, the collectors have a perfect record of acquisition. No civilization has successfully resisted them. So why would we fare any better with your help? Asks the Chinese ambassador. Klitnock steps forward. Because together we have something the collectors have never encountered, your species' unpredictability combined with our technology. The initial planning session quickly devolves into chaos. Human military strategists propose conventional defenses, while Zorgan commanders suggest standard battle formations. Neither approach seems adequate against an enemy that has perfected the art of planetary acquisition. During a brief recess, Sandra finds Klitnock staring out a window at New York City. Your world is quite beautiful, he says quietly. Different from ours. We've been conquering planets for so long, we've forgotten to appreciate them. Is that why you became a cultural specialist? Sandra asks. I was assigned the role because no one else wanted it, he admits. Zorgans value warfare expertise, not understanding other species. But after spending time here, he trails off, all 3 eyes blinking in what Sandra has learned is a sign of emotion. Meanwhile, in the conference room, General Vrax has reached his breaking point with human suggestions. This is pointless. He erupts. Your primitive weapons cannot damage collector vessels, and your tactics err. Excuse me, interrupts an unexpected voice. Mrs. Eleanor Williams, The 78-year-old who had insisted Vrax play bingo in Florida has somehow gained access to the high-security meeting. I couldn't help overhearing your dilemma. Security moves to escort her out, but she continues undeterred. When my late husband and I ran our restaurant, we had a problem with a chain trying to put us out of business. They had more money, more resources, but we had something they didn't. General Vrax, surprisingly, signals the security to wait. What did you have? Unpredictability, she says with a smile. They expected us to fight conventionally, with prices, advertising. Instead, we did the unexpected. We turned our restaurant into a community hub, made it about more than food. They couldn't compete with that. The room falls silent. Then Sandra snaps her fingers. That's it. The collectors expect either surrender or conventional resistance. What if we give them neither? Over the next 24 hours, a bizarre but brilliant strategy emerges. Rather than meeting the collectors with military force, Earth and the Zorgans will present them with complete unpredictability. Human creativity paired with alien technology. Captain Sarlthoop, who has developed an unexpected talent for human-style lateral thinking, suggests modifying Zorgan communication devices to broadcast thousands of contradictory signals that will confuse the collectors' precise cataloging systems. A team of human DJs and sound engineers works with Zorgan technicians to create what they call sonic chaos, patterns that seem random to the collectors but actually contain coordinated instructions for the Earth Zorgan Defense Forces. General Vrax, initially skeptical, gradually comes to appreciate the unorthodox approach after a teenager explains means to him. So the humor derives from the unexpected juxtaposition of concepts. This is precisely what might confuse the collector's logical systems. As the collector ships enter the outer solar system, preparations reach fever pitch. Zorgan vessels are repainted with bright, illogical patterns. Human television broadcasts are modified to include subliminal messages that will mean nothing to the collectors but serve as coordination signals for defenders. Sandra and Klidnock find themselves at the center of this unlikely alliance, translating not just language but thought processes between the species. Do you think this insanity will actually work? Klidnock asks as they watch a group of kindergartners teaching Zorgan soldiers to create paper airplanes for some part of the defense plan that even he doesn't fully understand. Honestly, I have no idea, Sandra replies. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? If we don't know what we're doing, how can they? The first collector scout ship enters Earth orbit just as darkness falls over New York. Operation Creative Chaos is about to begin. The collector scout ship resembles a perfect metallic cube. Its surface is unmarred by any visible propulsion system or weaponry. It hovers silently over Manhattan, scanning the planet below with methodical precision. Inside the United Nations building, now serving as Joint Earth-Zorgan headquarters, screens display the collector's first transmission, a series of mathematical equations that Sandra recognizes as a universal demand for surrender. They're categorizing Earth's resources already, Klidnock explains, pointing to scrolling data. Population centers, mineral deposits, water sources, all being tagged for efficient harvesting. General Vrax nods grimly. Standard collector procedure. They expect either immediate surrender or predictable military resistance. Then let's give them neither, Sandra says, activating the communication system. Operation Creative Chaos begins with what the planning committee calls Phase 1, deliberate confusion. Instead of responding to the collector's mathematical surrender demand, Earth broadcasts thousands of cooking recipes in interpretive dance form. Simultaneously, Zorgan ships begin flying in patterns that appear random but actually spell out lyrics to popular disco songs when viewed from above. The collector ship pauses its scanning, clearly processing this unexpected response. It's working, Captain Sarlthoop exclaims. Their systems are attempting to find patterns in our behavior. Phase 2 follows immediately. Around the world, millions of people step outside and perform completely different dance moves while holding up random household objects. Meanwhile, Zorgan troops stationed globally begin painting enormous, colorful murals on open ground, each appearing meaningful but actually nonsensical. The collector ship remains motionless for 17 minutes, its processing systems presumably struggling to categorize this planetary behavior. They're sending for reinforcements. General Vrax announces, monitoring their communications. The main fleet is accelerating toward Earth. We have approximately 6 hours. In those 6 hours, human-Zorgan cooperation reaches unprecedented levels of creative absurdity. Thousands of small Zorgan vessels, each painted in clashing neon colors and trailing streamers, perform what appears to be an elaborate aerial ballet synchronized to a mixture of classical music and heavy metal. On the ground, flash mobs in major cities incorporate Zorgan volunteers into performances that combine elements of Broadway musicals with competitive sports. Most crucially, the global communication network, enhanced with Zorgan technology, broadcasts billions of contradictory data points about Earth's population, resources, and defenses. 1 minute Earth appears to have 7 billion humans. The next it shows 70 billion, then 700. We're overloading their classification systems, Sandra explains to world leaders. The collectors require precise data before beginning acquisition. We're giving them the informational equivalent of a sugar rush followed by a migraine. As the main collector fleet approaches, 7 perfect cubes of increasing size. Phase 3 begins. The Zorgan mothership, now covered in what humans would recognize as memes and emoji patterns, positions itself in Earth orbit as a decoy. General Vrax, who has surprised everyone with his growing appreciation for human tactics, addresses the joint forces. Remember, there is no logical pattern to our defense. That is precisely why it will succeed. A collector command ship initiates contact with a more complex mathematical equation, essentially demanding that Earth cease its incomprehensible behavior and submit to proper cataloging. Sandra, now standing on the bridge of the Zorgan mothership with Klidnock and Captain Sarl Foop, gives the signal for their response. Earth's entire internet, its social media, streaming services, message boards, and digital archives, is compressed and broadcast directly at the collector fleet in one massive data dump. The effect is immediate and spectacular. The collector ship's perfect cubic formations begin to waver. Their surfaces, previously smooth and featureless, develop visible fluctuations as their systems struggle to process the overwhelming flood of contradictory, emotional, and often completely irrational human content. We've never seen collectors react this way. Klidnock whispers, all 3 eyes wide with amazement. The smallest collector ship suddenly rotates 37 degrees, a movement with no apparent purpose. Another begins broadcasting what appears to be a cat video intercepted from the data dump. A third changes color from metallic gray to bright pink. Their quantum processing systems operate on pure logic and pattern recognition, General Vrax explains, unable to hide his satisfaction. Human internet content contains neither. As the collector ship's erratic behavior increases, Sandra turns to her alien companions with a smile. Should we proceed to Phase 4? Captain Sarl Foop, now wearing a t-shirt that reads INY over his military uniform, nods enthusiastically. Let's show them what happens when you mess with Earth. Phase 4 of Operation Creative Chaos proves to be the most audacious yet. While the collector ships struggle with the information overload, thousands of small Earth Zorgan hybrid vessels launch from hidden locations around the planet. These ships, cobbled together from Zorgan technology and human design aesthetics, resemble everything from giant rubber ducks to flying pizza slices. The key is psychological warfare, Sandra explains to the Joint Command Team. The collectors have never faced an enemy that doesn't behave like a rational military force. Each hybrid vessel carries a unique payload, not weapons, but what humans have dubbed confusion bombs. When deployed, these devices release clouds of glitter, project holographic cat videos, broadcast laugh tracks, or spray streams of bubbles that stick to the collector's sensors. The collector fleet's perfect formation disintegrates completely as ships turn in different directions, apparently unable to establish consensus on how to respond. Two smaller collector vessels actually collide with each other while trying to avoid a squadron of Earth ships trailing streams of wedding confetti. On the Zorgan mothership, General Vrax watches with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. In 300 years of military service, he declares, "I have never seen battle tactics this absurd or effective." Captain Sarl Thup, who has embraced human culture more enthusiastically than most, adds, "As humans would say, if it looks stupid but works, it isn't stupid." The collector command ship attempts to regain control, broadcasting increasingly complex mathematical equations, their version of urgent orders, to their scattered fleet. In response, Earth's communication system, boosted by Zorgan technology, bombards them with thousands of contradictory TikTok dance tutorials. The final stage of Phase 4 involves the strategic deployment of what has become known as the Culture Cannon, a massive data package containing the most chaotic, emotional, and illogical aspects of human civilization. Reality television show finals, heated online debates about trivial topics, conspiracy theories, abstract art, and thousands of different interpretations of the same song. When this information hits the collector command ship, its perfect cubic form actually distorts visibly, corners rounding and surfaces rippling as if in pain. "I believe," Klidnock says with genuine wonder, "we've given a machine-based life form the equivalent of an existential crisis." The collector retreat begins slowly at first, individual ships drifting away from Earth, then accelerates into a full withdrawal. The command ship broadcasts one final message before departing, not in mathematical code, but in broken English apparently extracted from their analysis of Earth communications. "Humans too weird. KK impossible. Planet lay elite hazardist. To logical processes." Cheers erupt across every command center on Earth and aboard the Zorgan vessels. Operation Creative Chaos has achieved what conventional warfare never could: the complete repulsion of the supposedly invincible collector swarm without a single casualty. In the aftermath, General Vrax stands before the United Nations, looking distinctly uncomfortable in the formal setting. The Zorgan Empire recognizes Earth as. He pauses, consulting with Klidnock about the proper terminology. Too much trouble to conquer. Coming from a Zorgan, this is perhaps the highest compliment possible. The media dubs the event the Weirdness War, and stories spread quickly throughout Earth about the unlikely alliance. Particular attention focuses on the famous Florida Bingo Battalion, the group of senior citizens whose random number calling patterns were incorporated into military communications to further confuse the collectors. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, news travels fast. The supposedly invincible collector swarm, feared by countless advanced civilizations, retreated from a battle with a supposedly primitive planet. Intercepted communications from various alien species reveal a rapidly spreading warning. Avoid the solar system containing Earth. The beings there do not follow logical patterns. Their defenders include both the militaristic Zorgans and indigenous species with incomprehensible thought processes. Safest to classify entire region as naturally hazardous. Sandra, now appointed Earth's first official xenodiplomatic representative, reviews these intercepted messages with Klidnock. So essentially, she summarizes, we've gained galactic immunity by being too confusing to deal with. Precisely, Klidnock confirms, his translator conveying amusement. In a universe that values predictability and order, your species' natural chaos is your greatest defense. Captain Sarl Thup, who has requested permanent assignment to Earth as cultural liaison, adds, and we Zorgans get the credit for taming the strange humans. Our military reputation actually improves by association. So what happens now? Sandra asks, looking out at the Zorgan ships, still decorated with glitter and emoji patterns, hovering peacefully above Earth's major cities. Noun, General Vrax says, entering the room with uncharacteristic informality. We negotiate cultural exchange terms, and I need to understand why your planet has over 3,000 varieties of one beverage called coffee. 1 year after the events now known throughout the galaxy as the Weirdness War, Earth experiences an unprecedented tourism boom. Not from other countries, but from other planets. The first official intergalactic cruise ship arrives in orbit around Earth 3 months after the Collector retreat. The passengers, mostly wealthy Zorgans and curious members of allied species, pay astronomical sums for what tour companies advertise as the Earth experience. Guaranteed cultural confusion or your money back. Sandra, now heading the newly established Department of Interstellar Relations, reviews the latest tourism statistics with Klidnock, who has become Earth's first alien ambassador. Last month alone, we had visitors from 17 different star systems, she says, scrolling through her tablet. The most popular attractions are still our shopping malls, pet stores, and reality TV studio tours. Klidnock nods, all three eyes blinking in what Sandra now recognizes as amusement. The concept of keeping animals for companionship rather than food or labor continues to fascinate most species. Yesterday, a Draxian diplomat adopted something called a pug and nearly caused an interplanetary incident when he discovered it cannot breathe underwater like him. The Zorgan presence on Earth has transformed from military occupation to cultural exchange program. Former invasion troops now serve as tour guides, cultural consultants, and, in one particularly successful case, as a Broadway dance troupe whose interpretation of West Side Story, with extra tentacles, has won multiple awards. Captain Xarl Thoop, who officially requested planetary citizenship, opens Xarl's Fusion Cuisine, a restaurant combining Zorgan molecular gastronomy with Earth comfort food. His signature dish, tentacle tacos with quantum-infused guacamole, receives a prestigious Michelin star, making him the first extraterrestrial chef to earn the honor. Even General Vrax, who initially returned to the Zorgan homeworld to report on the Earth situation, comes back as head of the newly formed Zorgan Cultural Appreciation Academy. His lectures on understanding human logic as a strategic advantage become required study for military officers throughout their empire. But the most significant development occurs in the broader galactic community. Earth's reputation spreads, creating what political analysts call the confusion deterrent. Multiple interstellar empires, previously considering Earth's solar system for colonization, quietly redirect their fleets elsewhere after reviewing footage of the Collector retreat. Earth is now classified as a protected novelty planet. Klidnock explains during a United Nations address, "Your species' unpredictability is considered both valuable and potentially hazardous. It's similar to how you might view an entertaining but slightly unstable friend." The Zorgan High Command officially changes Earth's status in their Conquest catalog from pending acquisition to cultural research priority. This diplomatic reclassification comes with unexpected benefits, including access to the Galactic Trade Network and educational exchange programs. The first human students depart for the Zorgan Academy of Strategic Studies, while Zorgan scholars arrive at Earth universities to study what they call creative chaos theory, the seemingly contradictory human ability to function through disorder. Mrs. Eleanor Williams, the senior citizen whose bingo strategy became integral to defeating the Collectors, now hosts a popular intergalactic cooking show called Grandma Teaches Aliens, where she patiently explains concepts like a pinch of salt and bake until golden brown to confused extraterrestrial guests. On the anniversary of the Collector retreat, Sandra and Klidnock stand together at the observation deck of the new Intergalactic Cultural Center in New York. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way?" Sandra asks, watching ships from various star systems peacefully orbiting Earth, "when your invasion fleet first arrived?" "Never," Klidnock admits. "Our military intelligence classified humans as primitive and easily conquered. No one anticipated you would be." He searches for the right word. "So entertainingly chaotic." Below them, A tour group of Zorgan families takes selfies with the Statue of Liberty while eating hot dogs. Nearby, human children teach alien visitors how to fly kites in Central Park. The universe is mostly filled with species that value order, precision, and predictability. Klitnock continues. Then there's humanity, evolving through contradiction, thriving on variety, turning confusion into art. Sandra smiles. So our greatest weakness became our greatest strength, and our greatest gift to the galaxy. Klitnock adds, before Earth joined the galactic community, no one understood the value of unpredictability. Now, creativity is becoming a strategic resource. As the sun sets over this new era of human-alien cooperation, Captain Tarl Thoop arrives with a tray of his famous fusion appetizers. Who would have thought, he says, offering them samples, that our failed invasion would lead to the most successful cultural exchange in galactic history. Or, Sandra adds with a laugh, that the first alien invasion of Earth would end not with a bang, but with a dinner reservation.